You have to do it again. You have to do the intro again.
Do the intro again? I can't, dude. I had one intro in me. I can't do it again.
Okay.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode of our new podcast, Mostly Positive. Thank you all for joining us. What is Mostly Positive? Mostly Positive is a show where we talk about the ups and the downs of video game development. As developers, with developers, you know what it is. That was so corny doing this whole thing, but that's okay. We're in here. I'm happy to be here. Hey guys, I'm your host, Nick.
I'm Kalen. We are Aggro Crab. With us today as our first guest is Casey Yano. He made a game that you may have heard of, little underground indie card game called Slay the Spire. I don't think that many people played it.
I played it before. It was cool, actually. Now we have a show. Now we get to talk to these folks about their experiences, about themselves and their not just struggles, but their successes too, and just their feelings about making these games that we all love to play. That's why I want to start this, and yeah, here we go. Hopefully it goes well. I don't know. It's a Twitch stream. It might be a little bit scuffed. There's chat up on screen. You guys could ruin it. Please don't. Why did you do this show, Kalen?
I mean, yeah, basically to elaborate a little bit, I think a lot of game sort of podcast content is either just a bunch of influencers talking about like how they feel about games news, but like what we want to do is make a show by devs about devs where we treat each other as people first and as creators second.
The reason why you're our first guest is because you're our friend. And we wanted...
It's true, we're friends.
We wanted a softball for the first one. I just called you a softball. And I just think it'll be, a bit easier all around. So how about for our first question, how did we become friends?
I think we met quite a bit ago when we were both up and coming indies at a few of the Shadow Indies events,
that's
right?
Why it's loaded, because that's not when we became friends. But go
that's
ahead.
True. That's when we met.
Yeah.
That's
what was that event?
I don't remember. They're all like, all the events around them were kind of similar, right? It was like, maybe you can show off your game at this event, sponsored by Seattle Indies, which is great, by the way. Testing the games out and stuff at those events.
Is that Intel Power of Play?
There was an Intel one. Yeah.
Intel one?
There was Intel Power of Play.
Yeah.
Where a bunch of folks. Yeah, they were like, whoever wins gets like funding and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And there was like seeing like what is like viable, and then we didn't get any mention whatsoever, right?
Yeah. You didn't win. We didn't win.
I think there was a game with like bubbles or something that won.
Was it? Oh, Tiny Bubbles.
Yeah.
Okay, well, shout out to Stu if you're watching. Tiny Bubbles. That game's goated. That's like a puzzle game for your phone where like it actually has soap physics, and this guy's grandpa like invented the calculus behind these soap physics. And it's actually a really clever game, so shout out to him. That was just a random time where we ran into you. You were just another dev working on another game.
We ran into each other several times in those kind of events.
Like Seattle Indies.
So that was kind of like party. We sort of knew each other existed for a good while before we became friends. Is all I was trying to say.
And then where we actually hung out was at GDC, but this was after Slay the Spire was like a big hit game. We just got dinner. Yeah, we got dinner. Well, okay, I know you know this one. We had an office together last year. We were like cohabitants of an office, right? Don't gaslight me here, right?
He didn't even react. Casey's like, nah.
Slay the Spire blew up. It came out and like did a thing, and it was very crazy. So what happened? What exactly happened?
I mean, a lot of small things happened, I guess, to put it simply. There was like streamers, and then it got big, and then I think the instant there was like a little bit of traction from local streamers in China first, it became in the top selling charts in China, and then if you're in the top selling charts. At any point, I think after release, you kind of get a lot of kind of like front page coverage on Steam, and it kind of becomes like a tipping point. So I think that's kind of like how games go from like doing pretty good to like extremely well overnight. And that was like a very clear trend because the numbers just like
Yeah.
it's exponential, right?
But
and
that's
then
just
it just
like-
kind of coasts.
But that's
for a bit.
also, I think that's also like the chicken and the egg, though, right? Because if you're on the top sellers,
Mhm.
you're a top seller already.
Yeah, it's kind of
Of
weird.
course, there's a correlation there.
Chain reaction of like streamer thinks it's cool, tells other streamer friend, and then like vice versa, it just keeps on going.
So and you're not reaching out to these people, right? These are like people in China. They're figuring it out organically.
I see. I think we did send out a bunch of keys through Keymailer when we first started, about 200 keys, and then we kind of, when we saw good traction on it, we raised that to like 2,000. Like pretty much anybody who was
Okay.
on that platform who had more than 100 followers got like a free Slay the Spire key.
And you think that actually made a dent? Like that started the snowball?
I think so. We also cold called some streamers. I think we got 0 responses.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then, they played like 3 months later or whatever, but like
Right.
at the time it was just like
This whole like interview is going to be us like trying to get Casey to like admit one positive thing about his creation.
Yeah, it's
But I
just
think like, hey Casey, I think the character design is really interesting. Like, can you tell me anything about that? And he's just like, yeah, we just did whatever. Like, it's fine, I guess. You just you can't get him to admit that like any thought went into. He's full of wisdom, I'm sure. He just won't tell me.
I think the point is there's no silver bullet, there's a bunch of small things that get added, and then the more you make games and fuck up the design, the more you realize what is or isn't working. And then having tools to analyze what is or isn't working is important. And I don't know, you just gotta keep doing it. Like Slay the Spire is not our first game. It's like
really
it was like game number 4 or 5.
what? Wait, I thought
Yeah, it's the
thought
first
you
Mega
quit
Crate
your
games.
job
But
at
like
Amazon.
Anthony and I
And
made
then-
games in college for Flash and iPhone and stuff. And I
Really?
made a handful of prototypes before that.
Yo, that's
That
wild.
makes me feel so.
And then
much
I
better.
fucking failed and I went and got a job. And then I learned about like software in like the big fucking industry. And then I quit because I just felt like it. And I made a game. That's how it works. It's not like I just randomly made a game.
I swear you just randomly made a game. I feel so much better that you had failures along the way. That's like
Randomly.
okay, everything.
You
makes-
just find out that Slay the
you
Spire
never-
wasn't the first game?
Yeah, because you
You
never
never
tell
told
us
me.
anything, Casey.
That's why we're talking
Oh,
to you
okay.
in an interview
Well, I
format.
Of course, we didn't know because you haven't told us.
Jesus. What made you decide to quit your job and make games again, even though you hadn't had success previously? What changed?
Oh, I see. I don't know, actually. It's just, sometimes when you get older, you realize your past self was an idiot, and then you just kind of start seeing those patterns.
I mean, if the answer is like a midlife crisis, then like that's valid. Does anything ever happen to you where in the back of your head you're like, I shouldn't have to put up this shit I made Slay the Spire?
What do you
you
mean,
ever
like when
get-
I'm waiting in line at a grocery store? Like,
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but like,
Like no, like exactly that.
yeah. Do you ever have
No.
just a little ego moment?
I certainly hope not. People around me tend to say it much more than me, which is
Yeah.
really weird, and I don't like it.
Let's name names.
Don't name names.
I don't think we're gonna be naming names here.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, like Anthony and I started making games before Indie Game the movie came out, right? So
Yeah.
I felt like we were just
the
making
difference
games
between
because we
you and me.
wanted to make games that didn't really exist in terms of like things that are like lacking in certain types of design, or it's like why not this kind of game, And so we were making those, and back in the day there were a lot of opportunities. You can be like, this genre literally just doesn't exist on this platform, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes people would just make that genre and make enough cash to be like, maybe we can make another game. A good example is like there was like a Katamari type game on PC, which was kind of jank. I'm not gonna lie, but like it was like the only Katamari like game on Steam, and it was a huge deal. And it was just like that kind of stuff made news all the time. And so we were like, why don't we make these kind of games? Like try making a similar game that's on like a Nintendo console, because Nintendo games are always crazy and wacky, and maybe put them on PC, see what's interesting there, add our own flair to it. And so, I don't know. I wasn't trying to make it. The concept of making it didn't even like exist. Like getting
Sure.
rich from game dev just like doesn't make any sense. Like a successful game dev maybe made 6 figures, and it was like, wow, that
Yeah.
person pretty much has a tech job.
Right.
after like risking
Congrats.
everything, right? Like it's so
Right, right.
stupid.
I'm very anti, bringing people on the show to try to be like, what's your secret? Because some people have advice, but ultimately it's like, there is always, a crapshoot involved. No one has like the keys to the kingdom. So like, I wanna know who you are now.
What's
Who
the
I am
vibe?
now. I'm pretty much the same. I still work on games. I like experimenting and seeing, what kind of technologies affect gameplay and stuff like that. I think I'm a little bit more interested in how other people are also making games these days than before. Because it's game dev is very confusing now. I think there's a lot more expectations,
Sure.
and if you don't meet those, especially technological expectations, there's a lot of assumptions about how difficult or easy it is to make a game. And if you fail on one or two fronts, people will grill you on it, right? Like why would a game like this lag, or like why would a game not look perfect like Picasso did it, right? And it's just like, I don't understand. It must be a Flash game, or like we get those kind of comments all the time on Slay the Spire. Back in the day, if a game was just like animated with like flashlight graphics, like nobody gave a shit. And
Yeah.
today, if you make a game like that, like they'll just, you know, they're gonna look at it as an amateur product sometimes, and it can be pretty tough to overcome that, I think.
Amogus
Yeah.
doesn't count, chat.
Amogus doesn't count. I know Amogus is in chat. You guys, we'll talk about you guys at some point. There has to be a way to minimize that luck. We can't just say like, "Oh, it's luck," and tell people that, "Oh, it's just luck." I mean, I understand why we tell people that it's luck, because it is, and people have to know that, because it's a very dangerous industry if you don't know that. But once you're in it anyway, because you're gonna be in it, you're not gonna listen, and you're gonna be an indie dev. Like, how do you minimize the luck involved? How do you
Minimize the luck.
cover your ass? I feel that.
But I mean, all sorts of things can happen, right? Literally, like somebody could be making the exact game that you are making while you are making it, and then suddenly, right before release, you find out each other exist, and then it's a 50-50 about which one somebody buys versus you or them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like true luck. Like it's uncontrollable.
Right.
Yeah.
Or sometimes,
Hades.
or sometimes you develop a game inspired by Hades, and then they announce your launch date after you've already locked yours in.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
that happens.
Like let's say you want to make a game that's hyper specific, right? Let's say a crab with a bazooka, right? Bazoo crab, okay?
Mhm.
And then right before you're telling your friends about bazoo crab, and you let them play the game, and then your friend's like, that's a cool idea, and then like they secretly hire a team and release like bazoo lobster right before you, right? That's pretty fucked. That's a very different story. But you can make bazoo crab, and then everyone can make a bunch of bazoo crab likes. That's okay, because they're like, this is a cool game, and I want to put my own spin on it, and maybe I can make something more interesting. You know, if they take all the numbers that are exactly in bazoo crab, how big the explosions are, how awesome your crab looks, the distinct tone and everything, that's starting to get questionable, and it's like very gray area.
Yeah.
But I mean, games are just an evolution of design discussions, right? Like you start from Mario and you get to like fucking Celeste today, right? Like that's all like evolutionary. Like that has to happen.
Yeah. It's transformative to do that.
Pretty uncool of you to spoil our next project like that, though. We had like 1 year of you
Oh,
getting on
no.
this
You
podcast.
I thought it was
you
announced.
crap, what the hell? When are you gonna do this with mushroom foraging? So I think you already answered.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I think the fidelity, I feel like a game where you walk around somewhere and like pay very close attention to the environment to look for clues as to where something is very interesting. But I don't know if the fidelity is there yet, I guess.
Like
I
on
think
your
it'd be
end?
really interesting to be like magnifying glass, and look at stuff, but
I think that's just Pokemon Snap 2. but
maybe
for
it is
mushroom.
Pokemon Snap 2. That sounds awesome. I want to play Pokemon Snap 2.
I'd be so down for a mushroom foraging game.
So if we're ready to move on to our closing segment, what we're gonna do, Casey, is that we're gonna have you read some negative reviews of Slay the Spire, and we're just gonna give you a chance to respond to them, and then let it inspire, conversation for our last segment. You don't have to like clap back. This isn't like some.
This is celebrities read mean tweets.
It's not though, because that segment's hella cringe.
I've never uninstalled and installed a game so many times. This game is great. This game is total shit. Oh, are we allowed to swear on this? Whatever.
Yeah.
RNG can make this game quite enjoyable or flat out stupid. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a card game. Like, everything is literally based on random number generators. Like, I think this person gets the point, but maybe when they have a good run, they'll change it back to recommended.
Shit's bananas.
This guy's tsundere about
Slay the Spire is a card game. Like, sometimes you just get kind of shafted. It's not an action game where, like, if you play perfectly, you'll just win no matter what. Like, it's just a different genre. Like, I don't know what the expectation is. I feel like for a card game, we have one of the lowest in terms of like randomization. We just have more options for players to do stuff. Every single time you finish a combat, you can choose. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. But if this person's upset, it's fine.
My personal biggest beef. I don't think I've seen any negative reviews because of this specifically, but early on in testing going under, we got this feedback all the time, and it was like, why do so many of the skill descriptions not say explicitly what they do? And that's the only feedback on Going Under that made me like actually molded, because like if you've ever played like The Binding of Isaac, they don't tell you anything. They're like, they're just like, figure it out.
They're like, figure it out.
Like, you're supposed to experiment. Like, where'd that spirit go, you cowards?
That spirit is gone. That's a fun game, and then putting in time meter. Oh my goodness.
Get his ass.
How do you feel about the time meter? I think it's really funny when people are
time meter is great. I don't understand.
I think it's funny when people like.
I'm not gonna change time meter. Come on. If I change time meter, everyone's gonna be like, "Well, they changed time meter. Now everyone should complain about everything they don't like forever, every single day." That's not what I want. Sometimes you make a bad, not so good enemy, and then it just stays there forever because, if you give in to all the demands, then everything will be terrible forever. That's life. And I mean, you knew what the boss was for 16 floors before you fought the boss.
Right.
And technically, time meter, from a metric standpoint, is actually the weakest boss too.
Yeah.
We are going to
as the next episode.
Nick and I are going to take a few minutes to wrap up with chat after you peace out.
Can we do this every week, or is this a bi-weekly show?
This is for sure a bi-weekly show.
Okay, bi-weekly show. 2 weeks from now, we'll do another episode. Thank you, Casey. We're going to get you out of here and then take a few minutes with chat.
Sounds great.
Thank you, chat, for tuning in. Hey, like, subscribe, follow the channel if you haven't. Give Casey a follow on his socials, on at Casey Yano, at Slay the Spire, at Megacrit. You know what it is. And drop a Twitch Prime if you still have it. Check it out.
Kevin, no one is lined up. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. Hit us, DM us.
That's what we'll talk about afterwards. Thank you, Casey.
I want to see Kevin.
All right,
bye.
Bye.
See ya. Wait, how do I get rid of Casey?
How do I get out of here?
Like, we don't have content right now, right? Like, this is kind of a stopgap until we get to announce our next game, and then it's like content all the way up forever until we launch that game. But for now, we're just like in a dry spell, and we just need to like do some content, or else we'll go crazy at home.
All right, let's peace out. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Time to play Pokemon Snap. Yay!